the 7 caves, and they started their journey with this. So this is the birth of the Chichimecas, and there's a lot of symbology that you see, like you see the man coming out of the mountain with water. Well, it's really a symbol for the foundation of a community. Okay, so if you follow the route of the Chichimecas and Toltecas as they leave Chicomostoc, and they basically follow the route here all the way. These are all the towns or communities that they founded over 400 years.
Oh my goodness.
You see? And so the symbol that you see here, right there, is really the symbol of a route and how they go, see?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you can find that one too.
Wow.
Until they get, and here's when they take over Cholula. Cholula is 2,000 years old. And when they finally get to Cuautinchan, which is their promised land. So history repeats itself pretty much. Now, you're gonna ask, well, is this an original map? And I will tell you that the original map does not exist. It exists in pieces, because what looks like rivers are really the folds of the original map, where it got wet along the edges
No?
and deteriorated.
Incredible.
So in order to create this map, we basically copied all the pieces of the map and integrated it in the same size and the amate paper, which is the original.
Incredible.
Super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is incredible. How old would the map be?
The map would have been, the pieces exist.
Okay.
Okay, there's a study that was done at Harvard
Right.
with all the academics of the world that were interested in it, you know, and so all they have is really the pieces.
Amazing.
And so we're the only ones that put it all together
Incredible.
and said, well, this is what it really looked like. And that this was 1550, before all of those other maps over there
It's amazing.
were created. And there's a lot more, but they were created as a response to the King of Spain and his cartographer, who wanted to know what was within his domain. Okay, what do I control? And so there's 50 questions that they posed to all the leaders of all of these different communities and so forth. It said, send me maps of your areas. What they didn't know was that the maps would not be drawn necessarily by Europeans. The maps were drawn by indigenous people. And so those 50 questions basically can be summarized in, send me everything about the flora and fauna and the life of your region. And so for the indigenous people, a map, they didn't know the concept of the European map. They knew how to draw up their own history. So these maps become historical elements for that process. So history, Academy of History in Madrid, or they're in the University of Texas. And so for us to be able to print the maps, we would have needed permission from the owners of the map.
Mm-hmm.
And pay the dues and all of that. But my friend, who's the director of the map section at Royal Academy of History, said, well, you know, you have to submit this for our permission and so forth. But if you paint them, you're good. You're good. You don't need anything. And so what it really pushed us into is that if we had printed these, we could not have printed them on amate paper and in the size of the originals.
Right.
Oh, yes.
So in here, when you go onto the internet, you can get all of those descriptions, but you can't take amate paper through a plotter.
Sure.
I mean, it's just very porous and it blocks the.
Isn't that a lovely horse?
Which, this is an original Aztec codex, but it unfolds and it's about
Does it go this
40
way?
feet long.
Does it go this way or
It
does
starts over there.
Oh,
That's
wow.
why it's called the Viennese Codex.
Okay.
Why? Because this was sent to Charles I in Spain, and he basically said, hey, give it to my brother, who is the king of Austria, who is another Habsburg. Okay? So the importance of having this one next to these over here is it really tells you the differences in the codices.
Can you describe what a codex is to me?
A codex is a historical account of everything in the culture, the life, and history of a people.
So it's like a pictographical
Absolutely.
history book.
As you go through, I can't read it, but there have been some who have attempted to read it. But this was created primarily for the nobility, the Aztec nobility. So they could teach their children and all of that, but it was not for the common people. Okay? For the common people comes the Spaniards, and they basically create the Florentine Codex. The Florentine Codex, which is in the Laurentian Library in Florence, was actually created for a response to the King of Spain, again, about what is in my domain. And it took 30 years for Bernardino de Sahagún, whose statue is out front, he was a Franciscan, to actually collect all of this information and compile it into 3 books. Those 3 books, the Inquisition was trying to burn all of these things. All the codices, all their history, you burn it up, okay? Just like the Chinese used to do, okay? So when they asked for the Bernardino de Sahagún to submit all of his documents, 30 years of work, basically what he did is he took all of the stuff that was written in Nahuatl, in the language, and of the native people, and gave that to the Inquisition, because he knew they couldn't read it. But what was transcribed in Spanish as well, which is next to it, I have a copy of it over there, he gave to his superior. His superior was friends with the Pope, who was a Medici.
Okay.
And so the Pope was building the Laurentian Library in Florence at the time. So he basically took these books and said, okay, put them in the Laurentian Library. That's where we're going to have all these archives. That library happened to be designed and built by Michelangelo. So everything is connected in the world.
Everything is connected.
And Mique, the queen of nature, okay, she becomes impregnated by the feathers of a colibri who come there. Here's the Annunciation and the feathers from a hummingbird make her pregnant. Well, the 400 brothers and sisters that she already had said, no, that's wrong. You know, you couldn't get pregnant with the feathers of a hummingbird.
Yeah.
But you know, we have the Immaculate Conception.
Right.
So what they planned, or the moon, who is the brightest of all of us, they turned into snakes to kill her.
Why?
Okay, so she gives birth to Huitzilopochtli, which is, he's over here, and oh, here he is, I'm sorry. This is Huitzilopochtli, which is gives birth to the sun god. And the sun god is not born as a baby, he's born as a warrior.
Wow.
And he basically cuts the head of the moon off and throws her up into the sky, and they take all the snakes, and those are thrown up into the sky, and they become the stars. And so we have, still today, is Coatlicue, we have the sun god, and we have the moon, but she's not of her own light. So when the sun comes about, she says, I am the light, you're just a reflection of me. Ever heard that before?
Yeah.
The elders would tell their children, and the children, or now adults by that time, basically write them down, okay? And create all of these drawings. I'll show you.
Oh my goodness.
He's talking about the Florentine
Eric
Codex.
would just go crazy.
It was published, it's called Las Sergas de Esplandian in 1500. And there they talk about this island called California.
Right, yeah.
Okay, and so everybody is coming to California because it's an island occupied by Amazon women, gold and pearls.
Why wouldn't you like that?
Yeah, so that's what they basically came, and for over 200 years, California, and I have other maps there, California is shown as an island. But this is the image, this is the marketing that they had at the time. Okay? You just come over here, there are women who are making your liquor, okay? If the women drink it, they throw up, and the men sit around playing the flute and drinking and having a good time.
Okay, perfect.
Account as told by the elders to the scribes,
Yeah.
and it's written in Nawa. On the left-hand side is supposed to be a translation of that
Right.
in Spanish.
Spanish, yeah.
But for those who don't know how to read, they basically have the images that are there. So it's almost like an index of the history.
Huh.
Okay, the problem is that there's not enough room on this column now to translate this. So you leave it to two Mormon professors who decide what we're going to do is going to take the images out of there, put them at the end of the chapter for those who can't read, and do an actual translation directly from the Nawa to English.
Uh-huh. Oh.
Oh, and then in Mexico, they translated from the English to Spanish.
Right.
And those books are over there under that case.
And this is all the Florentine Codex, you said?
Pardon?
This is the Florentine Codex?
Yes.